Yeah, I wonder, in your I've known you for a while. Like, we've been rolling through the same circles for a long time. And I wonder, in your estimation, what has been the biggest like level up for you after becoming a parent?
Level up in what way?
Like, just, you said, I feel like I'm just a better human after having a kid. And over the past, like, there's obviously a lot of changes that happen to you as a person, as like an operator in really your relationship with your wife, your role in your family, your work,
Got it.
that, like, what do you think has been the biggest thing that leveled up for you?
Well, I think there's that immediate level up of like a very primal, like I have to be a provider in some very overt way, right? And so, when we found out we were having Vera, it kind of just clicked into, not that we weren't being serious, but like I wasn't aggressively trying to climb any type of professional ladder. Like I was still working, I was still doing these things, but there was no urgency, right? There was no like stakes, right? Lucy and I were totally just enjoying being young and kind of figuring life out, right? But I think there's like a level up that just happens right out of the gate. Hey, there's another human you're responsible for. And I honestly think too, like it was a couple of years before like the responsibility and like the externality of this is your kid clicked in. And that might, I've heard stories of people who day one, they're like, my whole world changed. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I had this like incredible emotional response, like, wow, that's my daughter. Like my wife and I have a daughter. But I think I was still very much like, if I can delineate this to like, there's kind of like your time with yourself and your time with your collective family. I feel like that spectrum, like you're so aggressively in your self boat because that's how you've been your entire life up until like, hey, you find a partner and then you have like, and so I think it's taken me a long time to kind of move from this side of the spectrum in and understanding like what's healthy on this side. So what I mean by that is like when you go enjoy something or you go seek joy, is that something by yourself or is that something with your group? And
Mhm.
so I think over time, I've really started to recalibrate, not because I didn't enjoy this self stuff versus kind of like family stuff, but it was just like like no, we experience all of life together, not like these massive curated moments. Like it's not like we just show up to do this or we do like the core blocking and tackling of all these things. And so I was young, it took me a minute to kind of click into, hey, wow, like there's other people here and they don't just need me to take care of these things. There's like stuff we have to evolve dynamically as a family for.
Mhm.
um, and so that clicked. And yeah, some quick background just for people listening who maybe don't know me, which is probably a lot of people. Armen and I met through the CrossFit space. I used to work for Killcliff. I was one of the early brain guys over there, building the sales team. And then I now work at Ascent, leading our sales team over here at Ascent Protein. But we've been in the same space for a long time. And I think, yeah, like halfway through my tenure at Killcliff, it was kind of like a big stair step where I was like, hey, things are changing. And like the steps I'm taking are dramatically changing the course of my future career too. Like I started having all these different thoughts. And really what this sounds like to anyone is like he was growing up and that's totally what was happening.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things, like, I explained it to, because for me, these podcasts are really nice to be able to talk through a lot of the changes and feelings and growth that happens over the course of becoming a dad, over the course of just growing up as a dude. Um, and what you're describing is like this transition of, you've spent your entire adult life, um and I'm counting adult life because childhood doesn't really count in this, like, it's like
Totally.
after you have some autonomy in your life and some agency in your decision making is when it really starts counting, like the rubber meets the road. It's like you spent your adult life being alone, and I think that's really common. Not very often do you get people who discover who they are as a person within a relationship before discovering who they are as a person outside of that relationship. And if you've done the whole thing where you kind of learn about yourself as a solo flyer and then you get into a relationship, that relationship gets more and more serious, you maybe get married, and then you discover who you are within that relationship, and there's a little bit of a shift in perspective, a little bit of shift in who you are. And then the birth of a child is like a storm that like ship just kind of like goes into, right? It's not the gentle waves that kind of changes your personality, not personality, but your characteristics and your outlook and your way of prioritizing your time and your efforts. It's this gigantic storm that you get thrown into that you have to really find yourself in again. And the idea of growing up individually, growing up inside of your maturing inside your relationship, growing up into being a dad, as well as navigating professional life and navigating everything else that comes along with that. I mean, that's really the crux of where I think sharing these experiences could be valuable, because that's where people can see, the rough edges, the false starts, the successes and failures.